Shelter German Shepherd realizes he has been adopted, then something incredible happens. Hunter was a large German Shepherd living in a shelter in the United States. Every day, he could only see the world through the cold metal bars of his cage. From morning till night, the loud barking of other dogs echoed everywhere, a sound Hunter had grown too familiar with. People came and walked past the shelter, but they would only glance at him and then continue on, never stopping. The cute puppies, the small breeds, and even the dogs with soft fur were all chosen before Hunter. He had tried everything to attract attention, jumping up, barking loudly, even sitting quietly and gazing into their eyes with a pleading look. But no one cared. Every day, Hunter watched other dogs leave, finding new families while he remained alone in his cage. The new owners, with their bright smiles, waved goodbye, while Hunter could only stand and watch, feeling empty inside. The long days dragged on, and time seemed to stop for Hunter. He couldn't remember the last time he felt the warmth of a home. Day by day, he lived in silence, waiting for something to change, even though deep down, Hunter no longer believed that anyone would ever stop to choose him. The memories of a cozy home, of a loving owner, had now become a distant dream. The shelter had become all he knew. Hunter had been in the shelter so long that he had almost forgotten what freedom felt like. Each day passed like a sad song with no end. The barking echoed around him, the footsteps of people walking by, and the sound of the gate opening when someone came to visit. But all of this was just a familiar scene that Hunter had grown tired of. The gazes from the visitors, from the people who came to look, always passed over him without ever stopping. They didn't look at him, didn't pay attention to him. The puppies were petted, hugged, and taken outside to play, while Hunter remained standing still in his cage. Whenever someone approached his cage, Hunter would hope. He would stand up, wag his tail, trying to catch their attention, hoping this time would be different. But those hopes were always shattered. The people visiting the shelter would often walk past him as though he did not exist. A few times, he even tried sitting quietly, staring deeply into their eyes, as if to say, "Pick me, I need a family." But no, they would just walk by, sometimes pausing for a few seconds before moving on to find a cuter puppy or a smaller, more energetic dog. Days passed like this, each one just like the last. Hunter began to grow tired of hoping. He gradually gave up, no longer caring. Now, when the visitors walked past his cage, he just sat there, no longer wagging his tail or trying to do anything. He knew no one was paying attention to him. The long, endless days, the quiet nights with only distant barking, made Hunter feel like a ghost in the shelter. Some nights, when everyone else was asleep, Hunter would lie quietly in his cage, staring up at the concrete ceiling. He would remember the days when he had a family, a warm home, and an owner who loved him. He remembered running in the yard on sunny afternoons, feeling the fresh air and the sunlight on his fur. But now, all those memories were just faint fragments in his mind. Each time he saw another dog being taken away, he felt like he had been forgotten, like a part of the past that no one wanted to remember. No one knew that deep inside Hunter, a spark of hope still burned. Even though he tried to forget, sometimes when the night fell and the shelter lights dimmed, Hunter would ask himself, "Will someone choose me again? Can I find a family who will love me like before?" Those questions remained unanswered, and the hope in his heart grew weaker. Until one day, everything would change. But Hunter didn't know that the day would come sooner than he expected. One afternoon, like any other, Hunter lay quietly in his cage, his tired eyes staring out through the cold metal bars. The barking of the other dogs made the atmosphere even louder. Everything around him still had not changed, like a never-ending loop. But that day, something different happened. A couple entered the shelter. At first, as usual, Hunter only glanced at them through the metal bars of his cage. He was so used to people coming and going, stopping for a few seconds, and then moving on. But this time, something caught his attention. This couple was different. They didn't hurry, they didn't walk by as if they already knew which dog they would pick. They stopped in front of Hunter's cage, looking into his eyes. It felt strange, and for the first time in a long while, Hunter felt his heart beat faster. He stood up, his eyes following their every move. The woman looked at him gently, as if she wanted to say something that Hunter could not understand. The man stood silently, his eyes also fixed on Hunter. Hunter had never felt so noticed before. A feeling he couldn't describe began to rise within him. It was the feeling of hope. But was this the first time he had been noticed, or would this be another failed attempt? This couple was unlike any others who had come before. They didn't look at him as just another dog with nothing special. The woman started talking to the shelter worker softly, as if inquiring about Hunter. Her words surprised him. He couldn't understand all of it, but he felt something in her voice. A warmth, a concern that he had never felt from anyone else before. The shelter worker nodded and began unlocking the cage. The couple stood still, as if waiting for something. Hunter stood there, his heart pounding in his chest. How long had it been since he had felt this kind of attention? How long since he had felt important? When the sound of the cage lock echoed, Hunter could hardly believe his ears. He had become so used to just watching, but this time, it was different. This time, they were actually coming close to him. The shelter worker gently opened the cage and attached a leash to Hunter's collar. This wasn't a regular walk. This was something much bigger, a change that Hunter couldn't foresee. He hesitated, still unsure about what was happening. For a brief moment, Hunter looked toward the couple. They didn't take their eyes off him. The woman smiled gently, her eyes full of affection. The man's gaze was filled with patience and love. Everything around him seemed to blur. All that remained was the soft sound of the leash and Hunter's breathing, which was now more rapid. He felt like the entire world had stopped, and it was just him and this couple. Hunter had never felt so cared for. He wondered, could this be what he had been waiting for all these years? The moments of silence stretched on, but Hunter could not know what would happen next. Today could be the day that changed his entire life. Hunter still stood in the cage, unable to believe what had just happened. The mixture of excitement and nervousness filled him. He had never thought he would step out of this cage, never thought anyone would actually want to take him. The sounds around him seemed to fade, and all that was left was the sound of his heart beating, a reminder of the dreams he had always had. The shelter worker slowly led Hunter out of the cage, the leash still unfamiliar around his neck, but it did not feel restrictive. Hunter walked slowly, his legs a little shaky as he stepped onto the ground outside the cage for the first time in a long while. The large metal doors in front of him opened, and warm sunlight poured down on him, making him squint slightly, as if he could not believe he was really standing outside. For the first time, there were no loud barks, no strong scent of disinfectant or the cold of concrete beneath him. Everything was different. The fresh air felt relieving, as if he had just been freed from a stifling place. The leaves rustled in the breeze, and the sounds of the distant city echoed. All of it made Hunter feel like he had just woken up from a long dream. But strangely, even though he was outside, Hunter could not fully relax. He had never been away from the shelter for long. Everything outside was unfamiliar and a little scary. The couple walked beside him, the man slowing his pace to make sure Hunter did not feel rushed. The woman stayed close behind, her arms outstretched as if to welcome him. But to Hunter, it all felt too new. He felt like he was stepping into a world he couldn't fully understand. As they walked through the long corridor, Hunter lifted his head and looked around. The other dogs in their cages watched him, some with admiring eyes, others with curiosity. It seemed they all knew that something big was happening to Hunter. He could feel their gaze, but he no longer felt the anxiety or sadness he had before. This made Hunter feel stronger. He didn't know exactly where he was going, but he could sense that someone was offering him a new opportunity. As they neared the large glass door of the shelter, Hunter could see a different world beyond. Outside was a vast space filled with light and a cool breeze. Cars were passing by, and the faint sound of horns could be heard, making Hunter feel like part of a completely different world. But this feeling also made him uneasy. Would he have the courage to face everything unknown out there? The couple continued walking, patiently beside him, never rushing or making him feel scared. The woman smiled gently and looked into Hunter's eyes, as if wanting to assure him. "We won't make you afraid," she whispered. Still, Hunter felt a bit of anxiety, a little confusion in his heart. He didn't know where he was going, what he would do, but there was one thing he knew for sure. This time, he wouldn't be going back to the cage. This made Hunter's heart beat faster. But what awaited him ahead? As they stepped out of the large door, the sunlight shone directly into Hunter's eyes, making him squint. At first, everything felt hazy and too unfamiliar. The sounds of the city, the cars, the voices of people, and even the chirping of birds. Everything was so loud and chaotic for a dog who had been used to the silence of the shelter. The surroundings didn't resemble anything he had ever known. But what was special was that despite the fear and unease, he did not feel alone. The couple continued to walk patiently beside him. The woman gently stroked his back, while the man walked beside him, looking at Hunter with warm eyes, as if he knew this was an important turning point for both of them. Though Hunter's legs were still a bit shaky, he could feel the safety, the protection from them. It was the feeling he had not had in so long, a feeling of a friend, of family. When they reached the car parked nearby, Hunter stopped. He looked at the car, unsure of what to do. This was the first time he had seen a mode of transportation other than the vehicle that had brought him to the shelter. He felt like a child standing in front of something new and unfamiliar. The woman softly called his name, her warm, friendly voice calming him. "Get in here, Hunter. We are going on a long journey together." Although there were still doubts in his heart, Hunter felt a strong pull from them. He slowly walked toward the car, his breath still quick. When the car door opened, another unfamiliar feeling surged within him. It wasn't like the previous times when he was only taken on short walks. Now, it felt like the whole world was opening up before him. He didn't know where he was going, but his steps were filled with hope. As he stepped into the car, Hunter felt like he was entering a new world. No more loud noises, no more stifling air, no more cold metal bars. Everything around him was different. The man sat in the driver's seat, while the woman sat next to Hunter, continuously comforting him and speaking softly as if to say, "It is all going to be okay, Hunter." He smelled her scent, light and comforting, so different from the shelter's odor. These new smells made him feel like he was truly becoming part of something new, a family he had never imagined. But even at this moment, Hunter could not shake off the restlessness inside him. He looked out the window, seeing everything moving so quickly. The unfamiliar roads, the houses, the trees, everything looked like a living painting he had never seen before. Would he be strong enough to face life out there? Could he overcome all his fears and become part of this new family? The feeling, both vague and magical, enveloped Hunter. Though he didn't know exactly what awaited him ahead, one thing was certain: he wasn't alone anymore. And that was the first thing Hunter truly felt after such a long time of being confined. The worries and fears seemed less important now, because at last he was on the path to finding himself. The car continued to drive, and although Hunter did not know where he was going, he could feel something special. The feeling of change, undeniable and different. No more concrete walls surrounding him, no more barking dogs, no more overpowering disinfectant smells. Instead, Hunter felt like he was stepping into a completely new space, one of freedom, a space that could hold hope. The woman sat beside Hunter, gently stroking his back, her eyes soft as if to say, "Everything will be okay, Hunter." Those words made Hunter's heart beat faster. He had never felt loved like this before. How long had it been since he felt cared for, protected? The feeling of being loved and cared for, something he had not had in so long, now washed over him like a warm wave. When the car stopped in front of a small house, Hunter felt his heart race. Was this where he would live? He looked out of the car window and saw a small garden, a white wooden door, colorful flower bushes, and a cozy little house. The scene around him made Hunter feel both unfamiliar and strangely familiar. How could he ever forget this feeling, the feeling of a real home, one filled with love and care? The couple led him out of the car, and for the first time, Hunter felt a bit of fear. He looked around, unsure if he could fit in here, if he could become part of this new family. His steps were still hesitant, as if he did not quite believe he was truly welcome. But the woman smiled and gently called his name. "Hunter, come into the house with us." She reached out and petted him, and this time there was no more worry. He gently followed them, his head held a little higher. As they entered the house, Hunter felt like he had stepped into another world. A warm home, spacious rooms, soft sofas, and the scent of dinner being cooked in the kitchen. All of these things made Hunter feel like he was returning to a place he once belonged. This feeling made it hard for him to believe his eyes. He still remembered the memories of his old home, the place where he once felt loved. But now, could he find that feeling again here, in this house? The woman led Hunter to a small corner of the living room, where there was a soft dog bed. "This is your spot," she said, her eyes filled with affection. Hunter looked at the bed, looked around the room, and a strange feeling rose in his heart. It had been so long since he had had a personal space, a place to call his own. All he had ever had was the cramped cage at the shelter, a place without love or care. But now there was a warm bed waiting for him. Hunter slowly walked over to the bed, feeling the familiar scent of warmth and safety. He lay down, turned around once, then stopped, his eyes meeting the couple who were watching him. They smiled gently and came closer. "Welcome home, Hunter," the man said. Those words were like a promise, an affirmation that he would never have to be alone again. And in that moment, Hunter knew that he had found where he belonged. Though everything was still new, he felt like he had come home to a place filled with love and care, the very things he had been waiting for all these years. This feeling was hard to believe, but finally, Hunter knew he was no longer the dog forgotten in the shelter. He had a new family now, and this was truly his home. In the first few days at his new home, Hunter felt like a newborn. Each day he discovered new things, new feelings he had never experienced before. When he woke up in the morning, he no longer felt lonely in the cold cage. Instead, he lay on the warm bed where there were delicious meals and loving strokes. The woman and the man were always by his side. They were not just owners, but friends, companions that Hunter had been waiting for his whole life. The woman often took Hunter for walks in the park, where he could run freely, breathe in the fresh air, and experience the freedom he had never known. The man enjoyed playing with him in the garden, throwing the ball and playing together. Every time Hunter ran after the ball, he felt joy, as if everything that had happened before was just a nightmare that had now ended. However, even though he had started to get used to his new life, Hunter could not help but wonder about one thing. Why had this couple chosen him, an old dog with no perfect appearance like the others? This feeling of gratitude and curiosity haunted him every day. He always felt like he wasn't fully deserving of the love and care they gave him. One evening, when the family was gathered together in the living room, Hunter sat beside the woman, his eyes fixed on the flickering flames in the fireplace. The woman smiled softly, stroking his back. "We found each other, Hunter. Both you and we need each other." Those words warmed Hunter's heart. He realized that it wasn't because he was a perfect dog, but because they saw love in him. And that was enough. At that moment, Hunter understood that he did not have to worry about whether he deserved it or not. He had found his family, a family that did not judge, that did not set conditions, but simply loved and accepted him as part of them. Then something unexpected happened. One day, while walking in the park, a strange man approached Hunter. He bent down, looking at Hunter with a curious and surprised expression. "Is it him? The dog I found before?" The man asked, his voice strange yet familiar. Hunter's whole world seemed to tilt as the man continued. "I am Hunter's old owner." Hunter's heart raced. Was this man really his old owner? And what would happen if he wanted to take Hunter back? This question made Hunter feel confused. He looked at his new family, his eyes filled with worry, unsure of what to do. But the woman and the man beside him showed no sign of concern. They stood firm, looking at the stranger, and calmly replied, "Hunter is a part of our family, and we will not let him go." Those words were like a strong affirmation, a commitment that reassured Hunter. He looked at them, his eyes full of gratitude. Finally, the stranger fell silent, bowed his head, and stepped back. "I understand," he said. "I just wanted to make sure Hunter was being loved." And then he turned and walked away, leaving Hunter with his new family. From that day on, all of Hunter's worries disappeared. He no longer had to worry about someone taking him away. This was his family, and he had found a place where he truly belonged. As the months passed, Hunter's life was filled with happiness. He was no longer the dog in the shelter, but a true member of the family. Each day, he felt the love, care, and attention that he had never known before. And in the end, Hunter realized one thing. Sometimes the most wonderful thing isn't whether you deserve it, but whether you find the right people at the right time. And for Hunter, that was the family he had found, the place where he would stay forever. Thank you all for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the best stories. See you in the next one.